Do either of the other panelists have something they would like to add to that? Okay, great. All right, we have a lot of questions up here, and I think I'm going to start with 2 questions here that are related to the last one, and then we'll branch off into some other things. So the first one is, says, great distinction between truth and fact, but I wonder, does the idea of incarnation, the idea that the truth entered the realm of facts, muddy the waters a bit for Christians? Are factual inaccuracies in the accounts of the life of Jesus still a problem?
Is that addressed to anybody?
It was addressed to you, Anne, but again, I would put it to the entire panel.
I'll say something about that.
Great.
Would you like to go first? I wrestle with that in this project I've been doing, Confessions of a Secular Jesus Follower. And I'm saying the factual accuracy is not a hurdle for me. I'm sort of saying that, what does it matter whether it really happened this way, whether it's journalistically accurate? Because there is truth that can be gleaned from it regardless. And obviously I'm not approaching that as a journalist or even as a Bible scholar, just as somebody who's trying to learn and get input and insight on life. So for me at this stage of the game in my life, no, there's not a problem with factual inaccuracies.
My thought is simply this. We would like people to be as accurate as possible about our own personal histories. And so if I'm standing somewhere and talking to you and you say something about my history that is inaccurate, I need to correct that. Because the inaccurate historical context might yield an inaccurate interpretation. It might yield a misrepresentation. I teach college students, and many of my college students think that Jesus was Christian. That's historically incorrect. And then when I peel back the scriptures and show them that he was standing in a synagogue and had a Jewish mama, Palestinian mama, and a papa, and he hung around the Middle East, probably looked non-European for a fact, their perception of things begins to change just based on a little bit of historical correctness, maybe a recontextualization of culture and background, his language. These are all critical pieces. Are they unimportant? Because for Christians, we need to understand the historical Jesus. Otherwise, we end up with some mythological creature, some made-up fictitious creature without the historical context. We have to have, our Christology has to be grounded in historical fact. We have to get as much of the history correct. I know as an African American, our history has been distorted. And those historical inaccuracies continue this pervasive structural racism and all kinds of other nasty things that occur in the African American experience because of inaccuracies. And in many instances, nobody wanted to record our history. And that left it open to a lot of crazy thinking about what African Americans really are. And so I think it's important for us to make sure that we pay attention to history. And that's important for all of us as individuals. It's important that we get the history right about Yale, where it came from, who's responsible for the foundation of this institution. We got a whole hallway full of historical documentation hanging off the walls of great people who walked through here. And they're pretty particular about what they hang up around here.
Excellent point, and I think there's a balance. Often when I've been in churches and Bible studies and this kind of debate comes up, my test question is always the so what question. You know, when you find you're in a debate about, did this happen, did it not happen, was it this way, was it that way? The test for me is asking, does it make a difference if I try on the shoe I don't have to believe the shoe, but if I'm just trying it on as this being a different way than I have come to believe, what does or does not change about my faith? What does it look like and feel like if I'm wearing this other set of facts or identities? Or if I wasn't sure about this, what difference would it make? And what I find is, more often than not, it doesn't make a difference. Sometimes it does make a difference. And people say, this is really critical. Whether Jesus actually rose from the dead or whether that was a made-up story is actually important to my faith. Whether Jonah was actually swallowed by a fish and vomited up 3 days later on the shore, maybe that doesn't affect me as much. And just putting that so what test is something I think for all of us when we find something that's troubling or we're not sure about is something that can say, all right, what difference would this make to my faith and to my witness? I would say as you look at the life of Jesus, it's sort of this double-edged sword because we do have this, Jesus was not, we've seen a lot of pictures of Salmon's head of Christ, which a friend of mine used to call the Olaf Jesus because he looked like a Scandinavian white guy and not a Middle Eastern Jewish man. But as Christian faith in particular worships a living Christ who is in whatever way and whatever mystery resurrected and living among us, does that limit how Jesus can then appear? We have there was a huge hoorah down in New Jersey a number of years ago because they were doing a passion play and somebody cast Jesus as a black man. And, Jesus couldn't be a black man. Like, come on, really? Is Jesus not alive? Do we not see Christ in everyone? And then I thought, you want a real scandal, you make Jesus a woman. I'll knock your socks off. And then I thought, how horrible would it be if we had a photograph of Jesus? If we had that much historical fact, it's like the more facts we have about Jesus, the more in the box Jesus goes and can only be this and can never be anything else. And for those of us who worship a Christ who blew out of that box and is supposedly alive, and that I see in Warren and I see in Tom and I see in all of the people that I meet, the face of Christ becomes everyone's face. And as Jesus said, even as you've done unto the least of these. And how do we ever see Christ in the least of these when we become limited by who Jesus was historically? And so I think there's that balance between saying, yes, there are facts in there, but to what degree do those facts affect our faith and our lives? And in what sense are we so grasping onto some factual detail that we're losing a larger truth or the ability to love or to see the work of the Spirit among us and in and around the people we see?